So here's the part that's really going to start bending your brain. We now know that money for our entire society is made out of thin air. It's mostly just an entry on a computer or printed paper. Did you know also that money for loans are often created this way as well? When you take out a loan from a bank, for let's say a home loan, a student loan, a business loan, car loan, etc., the money the bank loans you, with interest charges, is not taken from other people's deposits. It's made out of thin air. It's simply an entry in their computer system. That's it. Most people think they're borrowing money that is deposited into the bank by other people. This is not true. Here's a quote from Robert Anderson, the Secretary of the Treasury from 1959 on this topic. When a bank makes a loan, it simply adds to the borrower's deposit account in the bank by the amount of the loan. The money is not taken from anyone else's deposits. It was not previously paid into the bank by anyone. It's new money created by the bank for the use of the borrower. And why is this a problem? Let's look at how much interest we're paying on a variety of loans you know about and some you may not be aware of. Student loans. The rate just went up to 6.8% on money made out of thin air. If you buy a house for $500,000, in 30 years at an average interest rate, you will pay an additional $580,000 in interest on money the bank made from thin air. Here's a big one you probably don't know about. Public projects like bridges, roads, and schools. Did you know 30 to 50% of the cost is interest on money often made out of thin air? This interest goes to the banks. Recently, the San Francisco Chronicle published an article about an in-depth study by an organization called California Watch. It showed how there have recently been over 400 loans to school districts for various projects and maintenance for roughly $9 billion. When paid back over the next 20 to 40 years, the tab will be over $36 billion. That's an average of 400% paid on these loans, on money made out of thin air. Don't think California is the only place this is happening, though we'll use California as an example. In 2010, the state of California was $158 billion in debt. Of this, $70 billion, or 44%, was interest. By the way, as of 2013, California's debt is now somewhere around $400 billion. So we're cutting salaries and laying off teachers, police, firemen. We're selling off public parks. Our roads are falling apart. College tuitions have gone up around 1,200% since 1980 because we have to pay a lot of interest on money made out of thin air. Now, how many states are experiencing this kind of debt crisis? Almost all of them. Here's some other places where interest is taking its toll. The Iraq War is estimated to cost roughly $2 trillion. After interest, it's estimated to be upward of $6 trillion, according to recent studies. The U.S. national debt is currently around $16 trillion, quickly closing in on $17 trillion. Every year, we're paying roughly $400 billion in interest. Now, how does this affect you? If you make around $50,000 a year at an average tax rate, roughly $4,000 of the taxes you pay, or 40% of your taxes, goes to pay interest on the federal debt alone. If you make $100K a year, you're paying roughly $8,000 a year for interest on the federal debt. In the last 24 years, we've paid over $8 trillion in interest on the federal debt. If you make $100,000 a year, 40% of your taxes going to this, you've paid around $144,000 via your taxes towards this debt. We can go on and on. We're not broke. We're being robbed. And our money gets channeled to big banks through paying interest on everything. Now, when it comes to paying for all this interest for public projects, schools, wars, the national debt, who pays? You. You pay through taxes and through fees and charges that are everywhere these days. You pay in increasing fees for parking tickets and moving violations. Let's look at one example of an additional tax or fee. Say your cell phone. Many pay roughly 17% or $20 a month in fees, charges, little taxes, etc. Well, over a year, that's $240. Over 10 years, that's $2,400. And over 50 years of using a cell phone, you will pay an additional $12,000 in taxes and fees. Now let's look at all the fees and taxes there are on everything these days. Liquor tax, gasoline tax, property tax, fees and taxes on your power bill and internet bill, it all adds up. See this list of fees and taxes? 60 to 70 years ago, none of these existed. Is it any wonder that many of the biggest buildings in any given city are banks and financial institutions? Now, you might be getting a little bummed out, but hold on, we're getting to the solutions part soon. So let's add up a short list of interest we're paying and look at where we could save this money if we have what is called a public banking system, which is nonprofit. What we have currently is a private banking system in which the banks make obscene amounts of profit off of everyone. Here's a very short list. The national debt, we're paying $400 billion a year. The estimated interest costs on infrastructure, bridges, roads, schools, as we mentioned earlier, is $500 billion a year across the U.S. That's $900 billion alone. That's almost $3,000 per man, woman, and child per year. By the way, all the taxes paid by individuals in the U.S. is a little over $1 trillion. So now you're starting to see where a lot of the money is going. We're being driven deeper and deeper into debt. Many are being driven into poverty, and this is not just happening in the U.S. It's the same in a lot of places in the world. So keep watching. We're getting to the solutions part. You're going to love it. We're about to show you how we can get that money back.